All right, I'll go ahead and get us started here. Thanks everybody for coming to our food bank panel discussion. We have three different representatives from three different organizations tonight. We've got Tara Davis from Central Penn Food Bank, Jennifer Brillhart from the York County Food Bank, and then we've got David DeVries from Community Action Partnership in Lancaster County. And I will turn it over to you three. We can start the discussion. If you all want to just introduce your organization, maybe we could start with Tara at Central Penn and just introduce yourself and then your organization.
Great. Thank you. Hi, I am Tara Davis and I work for the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. I am the Director of Agency Services and Outreach and have the privilege of overseeing all of our program partner and partner agencies, food pantries, soup kitchens, things like that. And we are lucky enough to have Jennifer and David as partners of ours at the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. So I'll pass it on to Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here tonight and be able to share with you about the work that we're doing. I'm the CEO at the York County Food Bank, and we are a local food bank in that we serve just the York County area. And I guess we'll get into more about what makes our food bank a little bit unique in comparison to Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, but we can talk about that later. So thanks for having me here, and I can pass it on.
Hi, everybody. My name is David DeVries, and I'm the Food Distribution Manager for Community Action Partnership. Community Action Partnership, or CAP, we're not just food focused, we're an anti-poverty organization, but I handle the food part of it. As the Food Distribution Manager, I handle the TFAP and SFPP contracts, which I imagine we'll get more into, but we're somewhat akin to a food bank, but maybe not at that level for Lancaster County. So
Great. And then I'll throw out the first question here for I don't know who wants to answer it, if you guys want to all maybe put in an answer, but what's the difference between a food bank and a food pantry? And then do each of your organizations do any food pantry work, or is it strictly food bank work?
I'm happy to start off, and then I can kind of tee it off to David and Jennifer. So the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank is considered a regional food bank. We are one of 9 regional food banks within Pennsylvania. We are also a member of Feeding America, who is an agency that actually has a membership of 200 regional food banks throughout the United States, including Puerto Rico. And so we are really meant as kind of a hub that will procure food in bulk that then is provided to our partner agencies. So within our 27 counties, we have a little over 1,200 partners. Those partners really are a very wide variety. They're food pantries, soup kitchens, emergency shelters. Those are the ones that we kind of consider our traditional partners. And I'll let Jennifer and David kind of go more in depth with all of that. But then we also have specific programming that, again, by utilizing partners within our service territory, allows us to focus on different demographics. So we have youth programming where we do before and after school meal programs. We do backpack programs for the weekend. We also do school pantries and college pantries. We do senior food programming, which are senior food boxes. And then we also do SNAP outreach. So we have a team that provides SNAP application assistance to households. And we have also have health innovations work that we do, where we work with the hospital systems and Medicaid programs to help provide healthy food boxes or food resource assistance, or even SNAP household application assistance. And then we also have mobile distributions too, which are, some are unique in the sense that they serve just our military family members, whether they're active or non-active military members, or just what we call Fresh Express, which distributes the bulk of the product would be fresh produce, and that would be more of a drop and go instead of having set days and times like your traditional pantry. So that is kind of us in a nutshell. And I'll hand it over to David. I'll just keep going back and forth.
Sounds good. Yeah, so as far as CAP and so we are close to a food bank in that we have a bunch of partners that we distribute food to. We take in food from the food bank, the Central PA Food Bank with Terra and some other sources, and we distribute that to our partners. We're partnered with close to 40 different programs, most of which are food pantries. And we have one shelter and a few community meals or soup kitchens that we are partnered with. But that would, I guess, would be the kind of the difference there is that we don't actually distribute directly to people. We have our partners that we distribute the food to, and they distribute it to them. We do have one, the Crispus Attucks Community Center is a part of CAP, and they distribute as a food pantry twice a month, and they also have community meals. And we're also partnered, another part of CAP is the domestic violence shelter in Lancaster, and we're also partnered with them for our programs. But basically that would be kind of how it works for us is we take in this food either from the food bank, we get TFAP food, which is federally distributed food to the counties. We get that TFAP USDA food and we distribute it to our partners, and we also buy some food ourselves and get some food donated to us, which we in turn give to our partners to donate it. We kind of allocate it up fairly based on how many people they're serving, and we just give it to them to allocate in turn to the people who need it. Yeah, and then I guess I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Great. And yeah, we are similar to both Tara's program and to David's program. We source food just like the food bank does, but we receive a good amount of our food directly from Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. But then we also receive food from the government, or we're involved in the TFAP program and the Senior Box program, which is known as CSFP. And then we also work with partners. We work with over 80 partners throughout York County that receive the food. They can either come and get it directly from our location, or we'll deliver it to them. And then we do have some of our own direct programming that we do. Prior to COVID, we were operating our own traditional food pantry. But when COVID hit, we changed what we were doing, our model, and we started a drive-through distribution that initially was taking place once a week. It now takes place twice a month. And it has pretty much stayed the same in terms of how it operates. We operate that out of a local church here in York, the Living Word Community Church. So they allow us to use their parking lot, and it's a 2-hour time period where people are able to come and receive food with minimal questions and paperwork. So we really try to make it go as fast as possible. But they pop open the trunk of their car and we basically fill it with as much food as we can, so to sustain the family or the individual for our hope is that they can get through at least 2 weeks until if they need to come back again to see us. And then we do some other programming as well. We also have some mobile distributions that we do. And then we just launched, just in the last couple of months, an online food pantry program. And the thought behind that is that we recognize, that we're not giving people a lot of choice in terms of the food that they're getting through our drive-through distribution. So this enables people to really go onto a website and make the selections and the items that really work for them, whether it be, dietary concerns or just their choice in terms of what types of food that they would like to have, instead of us just making the decision for them. And also the thought behind that too is that not everybody can attend a traditional pantry. A lot of our pantries that we work with, are open during what we would say regular business hours. And so for those working families, that doesn't always work for them. We do, fortunately in York, we do have a couple of pantries that have weekend hours or evening hours, but still, depending on where you live, that's not always an option as well. So the thought behind this online pantry is that it just gives people a lot of flexibility and opportunity to be able to go on. I mean, they could go on at 2 o'clock in the morning and get on the website and make the choices. And then we have, we'll eventually have drop sites throughout the county. Right now, we are just working with one site that we identified in Glen Rock. So that's our first pilot site that we're working with. So, and yeah, we do some other, I guess the other part that we do is just a lot of advocacy and a lot of education in terms of, if someone is in need of food, in York, we tend to be sort of the first place that they go. They can either go to our website or they can make a phone call to us, and we try to help them, direct them to a local food pantry or a local food source that would make the most sense for that particular individual. So.
Great.
Calvin, if I could just add something. I know we've all talked about food and we hand out the food, but we haven't really talked about what kind of food, right? And when we've talked about kind of pantries and people going to receive food assistance, I think for the longest time, we've had that thought of receiving, just non-perishable food items. And I would say that all three of us are very focused on providing nutritious food and foods that you and I are able to get at the grocery store as well. And so whether it be a resource from Central Pennsylvania Food Bank or another resource that Jen or David uses, we do focus in on other things other than the non-perishable. We know that they have their place, but we also really want to make sure that the neighbors that we're serving are being provided with the same options that we get at the grocery store. So we do offer fresh milk on a regular basis, and it'll be the freshest milk that you get because we get it straight from the vendor. And then we also do fresh produce too. So we have the ability to not only procure fresh produce from our Pennsylvania growers through what we call PASS program, Pennsylvania Agricultural Surplus System, which actually allows us to buy product from the farmers that may be having difficulties moving it. And instead of them plowing it under, we're able to help maybe with the operating cost or the growing costs of that product, and in return, keep them from plowing it under, and then also providing that healthy, nutritious food to our neighbors that need it. Then in addition, we also have this program, which we call the MARC. In food banking, we all love our acronyms. So of course that stands for something too, which is a Mid-Atlantic Regional Cooperative. So it is a cooperative of about anywhere from 28 to 32 regional food banks along the East Coast, where we have a partner down at the Port of Philadelphia. The Port of Philadelphia is actually the largest port on the East Coast. And as the shipments of fresh produce come in and your grocers go in and they buy up the produce that they need, there's always leftover. And so typically, they'll maybe sell it on pennies on the dollar to your discount stores, or they may just dump it. So we've kind of jumped in with those other discount stores, and as a cooperative have been able to purchase tractor trailer loads of produce, fresh produce, to be able to distribute throughout our different regional food banks, and then in turn provide that to our partners to be able to provide to their neighbors. The really awesome part about this is that Pennsylvania has a great growing season from, late spring into early fall. But in the winter, we've always kind of been stuck with your potatoes, sweet potatoes, onions, carrots, cabbage. It's probably about it. But this MARC program has really allowed us to bring in fresh fruits, citrus fruits, and some other different things that we may not have run into throughout the winter months or even in our growing season. So just kind of wanted to recognize where we get our food from and what a variety it is too. And we really do focus in on that frozen as well, because we know that that's just as nutritious and sometimes has a longer shelf life than the fresh stuff. So we're getting all kinds of frozen meats, and then we do get our frozen vegetables and fruit as well. So thanks, Calvin.
Yeah, that's great. I know that Jennifer mentioned like COVID and different programs and changes that have come out of COVID. Is there any like other trends or changes that have been maybe recent through your organizations or just maybe your partner organizations as well? Yeah, I'll pass it to anybody who wants to answer.
I can start. I think one of the trends we're seeing is that, that we're not just focused on food. That's obviously the first thing. We want to try to make sure that we're providing as much healthy, nutritious food as we can. But we recognize that in order to really move the needle and to address the issue of food insecurity, there has to be, a bigger look at, what the underlying issue is, which is poverty. So a lot of our partners and a lot of our programs that we work with, they're not just providing food, they're providing wraparound services. And so that's really important. Or that we're just helping to make those connections so that a person, of course, can come and receive, the food that they need, but that we're also making those links to other social service organizations that are able to assist in other ways. So that's definitely, happening more and more.
Yeah, I would agree with that. As Jennifer said, like we've also been trying to really advocate for signing up for SNAP with all of our pantries, because quite honestly, the biggest trend I've seen is just more people need emergency food assistance. The numbers have gone, up pretty much for us every single quarter. It's been at least a 10% growth, if not more. So that would be the biggest change. So yeah, we are trying to like make sure that we're advocating for those other social programs, making sure our pantries know how to sign up for or know, how to sign people up or refer people. So that's really, really important. As far as trends, just more people is the biggest thing and more need. Because pantries, some of our pantries have a good deal of help in our large programs, but some of them are a very small group running out of a church basement or something like that. But they're not exactly equipped to care for a huge influx of more people as much as they would like to do that. So making sure that we're advocating for those other programs is really important. So yeah, I think that's a really important point.
Yeah. And again, I would say ditto, but that's what you say when it's the second time around, right? I don't know if it's what you say when it's the triple time around of agreeing, but we definitely throughout the pandemic, we're at an all-time high of seeing our partners serving. But ironically enough, we now are probably at about 5 or 6% below our peak during COVID right now. And that's because of a couple different factors. That's because of inflation. That's because of, folks just not having the resources available, whether it be, the inflation in your heating, or in electricity. If you're renting, that has gone sky high and has become totally, unaffordable. And gas, we all know gas has been, such fluctuating prices too. So that's been a huge shift. But the other piece to this is that we are seeing, those that were receiving SNAP emergency allotments, they no longer receive them. This is affecting those that are being affected the most are our seniors. And so I'll back up for a moment. SNAP is an incredibly critical program. What COVID did for us is, as ironic as it sounds, I have these moments where I say, thank you, COVID, because it highlighted the charitable food network. I think it helped remove some of that stigma that is attached to receiving food assistance, recognizing that it can happen to anybody and that, you're just maybe one paycheck or one car breakdown away from needing that help. And so it not only highlighted that, but it highlighted SNAP, and that it really truly has been developed to be a safety net for Americans. It is available for everyone. It is, those that are eligible are able to apply for it. So what happened during COVID is not only did people they were not only able to apply for it and receive benefits, but they also added on what they called emergency allotments. So as somebody, say a household of one, is really technically only eligible for $92. The maximum amount that one household person could get would be about $194. So that emergency allotment took them from that $92 to $194, right? Made that difference. So that's what that emergency allotment did. And it did it for, I think well over a year into probably 18-month time span. And, now that they have been winding down all of these additional pieces that they have added for COVID, and they've been removing them. That was removed, I believe March 1st was when that emergency allotment had ended. Many of our families and households, are now without that extra emergency allotment. For seniors, it has become even more excruciating for them, where some of them are eligible for $26, $32, they were receiving almost $200 every month. And now they've gone down to that $26, $32 range. So, that's then kind of goes and plays into some of the federal and state work that we all do. And you've heard David talk a little bit about state food and TFAP. We have those dollars, those state and federal dollars to be able to help us purchase that food. But SNAP is 10 times more powerful than any food bank or food pantry can be. And so, we can talk a little bit later about why it's so important to know about SNAP right now and what you can do. There's a lot of advocacy around that this year that we would love to be able to invite you to be a part of with your local legislators. So.
Yeah, I know we kind of touched on it maybe a little bit, but during the introductions, but David, we know works for CAP in Lancaster, and then Jennifer works in York with the York County Food Bank. But how is that? How, maybe there's a question for Tara, and then maybe David and Jennifer as well. But how does it differ from like Lancaster County to York County with the difference in structural organization, I guess, throughout the county? What are the side effects or the different issues that come about with that difference between counties?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I think, you'll hear a very different, I would think probably a very different answer from me than you will from Jennifer and David. But, as a regional food bank, our resources spread a little bit wider. Obviously, we have 27 counties. Every county is a little bit different. We try to accommodate each county to their needs. But ultimately, our focus is to ensure that our partners have the resources that they need. First and foremost, we make sure that they have food resources, right? We're not the end all be all. We're not the one-stop shop, although we like to try to be. But with 1,200 partners, it's hard to spread out those resources amongst all of them, and being able to have everything that they need. But we do have a food sourcing team that allows us to be able to accept a lot of the government food that is out there. We also have the ability to work with many vendors, whether they're local or they're national vendors, where we have be able to kind of use our purchasing power to be able to, purchase maybe a half tractor trailer or a full tractor trailer load, however much we think we need for the network and that we're hearing from our network partners. But I will say also, we are very blessed here within our central Pennsylvania area, because we are kind of we're in this corridor of highways where tractor trailers are constantly coming, in and out. And so I will say we're unique in that as a regional food bank, where we've been able to be blessed with many resources because of that. But then I would also say that, not only are they food resources, but we do also provide other resources to our partners. We do food safety certifications. Of course, with food, there always comes the safety and the compliance. So we do have a compliance piece where, we visit our partners, ensure that they, are serving food safely, and then also offering those food safety classes too. We do offer some other trainings and workshops and things like that. That's kind of gone to the wayside since COVID, but we're going to ramp that back up here shortly. But really, we are very trying to be much more intentional about relationships and partnerships, and helping to provide resources to our partners, because honestly, we can't carry out our mission without all of our partners. They're the ones that are the boots on the ground, serving the neighbors who are in need. And I would be remiss if I did not give Jennifer and David a shout out for all of the amazing work that they've done in the past, but really how they've stepped up and served their community through COVID. It just was amazing to see how much they both grew as an organization and as a staple for the community. So I'll end this part with a big thank you to Jennifer and David, and then I'll hand it over to Jennifer.
Thanks, Tara. So I guess, as Tara mentioned, we did grow a lot during COVID. We were operating out of a 15,000 square foot facility, and we moved into an 80,000 square foot facility, which was a little too big for what we needed, but it was free at the time. So we were operating out of there for about 2 years. And just recently we moved into, I say recently, it's been a year, but it still feels recent. We moved into a new warehouse that's about 30,000 square feet. So we've had a lot of change, but I think that's what, I guess, because we are just serving the York County area, it allows us to be very focused on what the needs are in our community. And also we can be quite nimble, so we were able to quickly make some changes as a result of COVID. We just recently made some other changes. And so I think that's one of the things that we bring to the table in terms of our food operation, and just, being close to the York community and understanding what the needs are and how we can best help. A lot of our food donors, we receive a good amount of our food, a large portion of our food certainly comes from Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. So we're very grateful for that. but we also do receive a good amount of food from, because of our location in York. So there are retailers or wholesalers that want to perhaps just bring it right to our establishment because we're right there in York. So that's helpful as well. And we similarly work like Central does with, we couldn't be successful without our partners who are also helping us to make sure that we are serving the needs in the community as best as possible. So I'll hand it over to David now.
Yeah, it's really, we rely so much on the people that we work with, and being in the middle of the chain, we really rely on the Central PA Food Bank. Tara talked about the produce earlier. Through our relationship with them, we get, a big cooler stocked with produce weekly that we can distribute to our pantries that we work with. So along with the TFAP dry goods that we get and we're able to get out from them, we have all this great produce that we can also distribute to them on a weekly basis. So we really benefit from that relationship. It's amazing, and it allows us to give so much more nutritious food to the people that we work with. And similar to the people that we work with, all these close to 40 programs, giving out food on a weekly basis to all these people, it's just an amazing thing to see. I feel very fortunate that I get to be a link in this chain. As kind of like a food bank type entity, yeah, I'm able to see both sides of it. You get in all this amazing food, you get to work with people, and then you get to work with people who are doing the work every day of just making sure that people get fed. It's really, really amazing. I feel really lucky to have this job and be able to do this work. Yeah.
So as I know, we've kind of highlighted the differences between all of your organizations. Maybe you want to talk about different programs that each of you have, and we talked about the changes of, like, the recent changes of COVID and moving out of COVID and different trends. You said, David, I know David said that food insecurity has been going up recently. How do you guys look at like new programs and like reevaluate programs, and just what's that process for the different organizations? And maybe if you want to highlight some specific programs that you have started recently. Throw it to Jennifer.
Sure. Well, I mentioned our newest program that we started is this online food pantry. But for us, it's just a matter of like constantly evaluating what the needs are in the community. Several years back, we worked with our local community foundation, with Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, and a couple of other partners, and we hired the Food Trust out of Philadelphia. They came in and helped us to evaluate the entire charitable food system in York County. So that was really, really helpful because it helped us to identify where the spots are in the community that needed extra resources and extra help. And that's what helped us to unveil our mobile pantry. So we started a mobile pantry as well as two other local organizations in York. And we were able to really make sure we were meeting that need and helping those folks that just had either limited access to even a local food store and or transportation to a local food pantry. So we were out there bringing the food directly to those that are in need. And in terms of, so it's that kind of stuff that we're doing to always just, keep our eye on what the needs are in the community. And then our programming, we use a variety of different like matrix models to kind of evaluate, which programs are successful and which are having the most impact in the community. So there have been times where we have either had stopped a particular program because we recognized it just wasn't having the strong impact that was necessary. But we also have the opportunity to unveil new programming to really make sure that we are doing the best that we can. So it's exciting to be able to do that. So.
So I'll actually follow up from Jennifer as she was speaking to a project that we did several years ago, which was very enlightening and really created this amazing network within York County, really allowed all of the charitable network to really talk with one another. And I know that Jennifer and her team still work with some of those larger partners to kind of say like, hey, we've heard there's a need here. What are you guys doing? And trying to figure out who that is that's maybe going to take a mobile unit out to really kind of meet the community's needs there. So we actually said, wow, this was brilliant. This is so great, just to kind of get a better idea of the charitable food networks landscape of the county and really better understand where the need is. What does food insecurity look like in that county? What are the foods that are already distributing within that county? And the awesome piece to all of this is that we were able to do it at a zip code level. And really hone in on those zip codes that had a need that wasn't being met. And so, for example, with York County, we found that, the whole eastern side of that county really was underserved. There's some other pockets here and there as well, but that really allowed us to kind of take that focus in that particular part of the county. And so for the food bank covering 27 counties, we said, 27 counties, you only have so many resources. And you're kind of torn saying like, okay, should we start another food pantry here? Or somebody has their own pantry. They want to become a partner of ours. And we say, well, should we or shouldn't we? Because there's one right down the road. And so we have developed a policy and research team that has now has the capability of doing this with the other 26 counties of ours, not all at one time, because it's pretty extensive work. But we go county by county, bring in key players, and not just the charitable food network, but also other folks that are, have social services work that they're doing and really understand their community. A great example is United Way. We've been bringing United Way into those conversations. We've been bringing Hunger Coalition and Human Services work into those conversations as well. And so that really allows us to better understand where our resources should go, and where maybe we need to kind of maybe pull back a little bit on those resources. But even more exciting is a tool that we've been able to provide to our partners and slowly roll out with, which I think, Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys have been able to utilize some of that service insights on Meal Connect program to help kind of, yeah. Yeah, so they're utilizing, we're now, because of being a member of Feeding America, they've developed this awesome database that collects neighbor information, puts it into a program that actually provides mapping, again, at a zip code level, and really allows our partners. So if, for example, Jennifer, once they, have all of their neighbors into the database, they really can take a look and say, oh, look, okay, well, this is where we're at. And we're serving, here we're serving a bunch of people in this zip code, but we're serving 10 zip codes up. Just making this stuff up. I mean, it might be true, but again, just making, but it really allows them to kind of see, a better picture of where their services are reaching, and then kind of look at that and say, well, okay, great that they're coming to us for services, but isn't there a pantry around here? And why are they not going to that pantry and coming to us? Not that we certainly don't want to put boundaries on any services, right? Because we understand it may be they work closer to York County Food Bank. And so it's easier for them to get their services there than it would be in their community pantry. Or it may be that their community pantry is not opened enough days or hours to be able to meet their needs. Or they might not be serving as much because every pantry is unique. Not one pantry is the same. And so this work we really feel like is going to not only help our partners and us be able to better serve our communities, but we're actually going to be able to utilize this information when we go to visit our government leaders and advocate for feeding programs. David, I'm going to pass it on to you.
Perfect. Yeah. So as far as CAP and CAP food distribution, we are pretty light and lean in terms of like, we don't have new programs because it's basically just me, this version of the program. I have a part-time helper, but I'm the guy in the warehouse and I'm the guy in the truck who drops off food a lot of the time. So there's no like new programs necessarily. But speaking of what Tara was talking about, the hunger mapping project they've been doing in Lancaster County as well has been helpful in seeing where there's need, where we can try and find new partners based on like where there's a real lack in services, but there are some hungry people there that need to be accounted for and fed and stuff like that. So that's been an amazing help from that. There's not too many new programs as far as just hoping we can put out as much food as possible, basically, is the mission here.
Yeah, and how can, this is a question for everybody, how can people get involved with your organization? I know that Tara mentioned maybe also legislature, thinking about policy stuff as well. So what are ways that people can get involved with your organization or with policy issues as well? I'll throw it to Tara.
Jump in there. I know I've mentioned this a few different times. There's so many different ways that you really can become involved, depending on, what your commitment is, right? So is your commitment on a local level? Is it on a state level? Do you want to go gangbusters and really, get down to DC on the Hill and really advocate? We do start out small by just helping and coming to pack boxes because we have thousands upon thousands of boxes that do need to be packed every month. And that is something I will say, I'm sorry, I'm remiss that I forgot to say. During COVID, we actually created a new packing center. All of our volunteer work was actually done at our hubs. We have a hub in Harrisburg and then a hub also in Williamsport. And from COVID, we found that it actually was safer to provide our volunteers with a different site to do their packing events at. And so we have a centralized packing operation right off of Dairy Street in Harrisburg. So we have lots of groups that come in, they pack boxes. It's a great team building exercise. So, that's one way that you can help. I'm sure that David and Jennifer would agree with me that donating dollars is a huge impact. And for the food bank, those dollars go even further because of that purchasing power that we have with our food sourcing. We like to say that about every dollar provides give or take 6 meals, depending on the cost of that. But really something that we've been pushing a lot has been the advocacy side. So, who thinks, before I get introduced to advocacy, I felt like it was kind of a scary word. And I was like, oh, I can't go talk to those people in suits and, who are they? They're not going to listen to me. And it's actually amazing. It is so incredible to be able to share your story and your experiences that you have with your community and your neighbors. And all of this work that we've been talking about, all of this qualitative data and hunger mapping and connecting with our neighbors, that information is so important to take to your representatives, even your local representatives. It could be their local office. hit them up whenever they're not down in DC. They have times that they come back to their local office to visit their constituents. It makes a difference going to their office and them hearing voices of their neighbors, of those that they're serving, and being able to, let them know the difference that it makes. So I said earlier today that, there's actually a huge advocacy piece this year that we're pushing for, and we're really looking for a lot of support around that throughout the entire United States. And that's something called the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill actually gets renewed every 5 years. And so when you hear Farm Bill, you think, oh, it's just for farmers. Well, it is partially for farmers. They do have some safety nets built in there for farmers to help support them and continue their growth. But it also is for that charitable food network. So we've touched a little bit on some of these acronym programs, TFAP, which is the Emergency Food Assistance Program. And that's actually a program where food is purchased by the government from farmers, and then that food is processed and provided to the Charitable Food Network. Both David and Jennifer and myself are distributors of the TFAP product. Also, we've mentioned about senior food box programs, or otherwise known as CSFP, commodity supplemental food programs. That's a box of food that seniors receive on a monthly basis. That comes from the government. And then we've talked about SNAP. And so SNAP is definitely, it's not just the dollars that are put into these programs, but it also talks about policy and the way things are managed. And, again, this is why advocacy is so important. When they hear those experiences of applying for benefits or needing to manage a program a certain way, they develop these programs, but they've never experienced it. And so when they hear about some of the barriers that our neighbors have when they're going through a SNAP application, or when they're receiving food that might not fit their culture, those are things that our representatives need to know. And so, I'm sure Calvin will have our contact information, but we'll be, if you want to jump on that advocacy boat, we're gonna bring you on, and we can do baby steps or we can do big footsteps, whatever pleases you. We'd love to have you on board with us. But this is a really, really important year for the Charitable Food Network. So I'll hand it over to David.
Great. Yeah. As far as what's useful and helpful for us is very similar things. Cash donations are always helpful. The price of food, everybody knows, is just way too much right now. So any kind of money we can use and just buy it right for people. Or if people want to hold a food drive, a lot of companies especially do something like that, or community members just want to hold a food drive. People can reach out to me and ask, like, what kind of stuff do you want to is the best to donate, and I'm happy to give out a list. Or sometimes people want to do like a drive of turkeys or hams around the holidays. That stuff is all super helpful, and it goes like I'm out there giving food to pantries every single week. So everything you give goes right out to a pantry, that goes right out to a person. So all of that's really helpful. And yeah, all the advocacy stuff, as Tara said, amazingly helpful. Anything you can do to just make sure you're thinking and talking about how people need food these days, I guess. Yeah. Jennifer.
Yeah, I have the same. I don't know what we have to figure out what the word is to the ditto. But yeah, all the same, advocacy is super important. Donations are super important, and volunteerism. So for us at our local food bank, we utilize over 100 volunteers on a weekly basis. So, we try to stay as efficient as possible. And to do that, we really do need volunteers. And they do everything from the box packings to, we have volunteers out and about picking up food donations or making deliveries for us. And and or at our drive-through distribution, we use about 30 to 40 volunteers that operate the entire distribution. So there's lots of, you can sign up on our website for a volunteer shift. They're usually always about 2 hours. And it's a great introduction to, just to see firsthand what the charitable food system really looks like. And but of course, yeah, those donations really help us in terms of us being able to purchase specific food items that we might need that we are not able to source. And or those donations. We also do, for us, we have a virtual food drive as well, an option. So some of the some companies enjoy that. I know Central Pennsylvania does that as well. I'm not sure about David's program, but that's another way people can get involved and sign up on to get our email newsletter, because in there we will, when there's occasions for people to be able to advocate for different issues and different things, we send out information about that. So yeah, those are the main things that you can do to help us.
Great. Now I guess I'll open it up to anybody else who's on the call. If you have any questions you want to ask, you can unmute yourself or chat in on the chat function. But yeah, I'll open it up if anybody has any questions.
Calvin, in case nobody saw the chat, breaking news. After Ditto is Trito. Should have guessed it.
Doesn't seem like we have a lot of questions. If there's anything that you guys want to share, any other specific things that any programs or thoughts to share, or slides or graphics or anything?
No, I would just say thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak with all of you this evening. And, Calvin, thank you for the invitation. David and Jennifer, so great to be able to partner with you. We've all been partnering with one another for a real long time. And, I appreciate everything that you all do.
Yeah, I would say the same. Thank you to everybody for being here. I really appreciate your interest in just this topic, and obviously such an important thing. So I really appreciated the chance to talk about what we do at CAP, and I'm glad to see all you guys tonight. And thanks, Tara, and thanks, Jennifer. Great to see you guys.
And same, thank you to everyone for being here tonight. And also, I would just say, to reach out to any of us if you ever had questions or you want more information, always available to sit with you and talk with you more about the work that we do and how you can help.
Great, yeah, and I'll send out the recording tomorrow or in the next couple days. And if anybody wants to get connected with each other, you can always, I'll send out an email through PRC. You can just reply to that email and I can connect the presenter with an attendee either way. So thanks everybody for being here. Yeah, I guess we'll wrap it up there unless anybody has any more questions. And yeah, thank you.